Are you a fan of Chucky? I'm a fan of Chucky. You know who else is a fan of Chucky? Child's Play 3, the ending. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. Winky face, haha.
Hi, welcome to our, review of the Chucky, or Child's Play, series of films. We're gonna talk about them. We're gonna talk about all the movies in the series. How many are there? Like 7?
Yeah, 7 so far.
Let's get into it.
All right. There's hold on. Oh, dang it.
I'm holding on.
So we start off with Child's Play, which is about a killer. His name was Charles Lee Ray.
Charles Lee Ray, a serial killer.
And you know the police are after him, so he breaks into a toy shop. And what do you know? He gets killed, but he says some weird voodoo phrase.
Gobbledygook, one might say.
Yeah, what a gobbledygooker. His spirit gets transported into a good. It's a good guy doll.
It's a good guy doll. So it's, he transfers his soul into the doll in order to escape death, thus turning the doll into what we know today as Chucky. And he basically spends the entire movie trying to get out of the doll. He doesn't want to be a doll. This was supposed to be a temporary move. However, he discovers that there's a bit of a problem. He can only transfer his soul into the first person that he told he was a doll. First person he gave up his secret to.
Who was a young boy.
Andy Barkley. And the first film is kind of subtle in a way in that it doesn't really reveal that Chucky is that the actual doll is possessed until like the end of the second act. So a good ways into the movie. And then things get pretty crazy from there. It's a pretty well-made movie. Quality 80s slasher flick. The stop motion, the puppet animation, animatronics, whatever they do to the Chucky doll, looks pretty darn great in all these movies. First one especially.
Holds up pretty well. What's the guy who plays Chucky? Brad Dourif, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I love him. He's great in all of these movies. He plays Chucky in all of them.
Yeah.
He plays the live-action Charles Lee Ray, and then he plays the voice of Chucky, the doll. And I thought he was great. He has some good one-liners. Most of them come later on. He has like 2 or 3 in this first one, and he gets more jokey as it goes on, which I think is really funny. I like the ending of this movie where he's in the fireplace and he gets burned. Do you remember this? Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool. It was a nice, interesting end of the movie. And then they're like, oh, okay, and that was the end. And then they're like, oh, wait, this is a horror character. We gotta
bring him back.
We gotta keep bringing him back. Is there anything else you want to say about this first one? Because I mean, this one's known more of as a, maybe not as of a classic as say Halloween is or Nightmare on Elm Street is, but it is a well-known horror movie.
It's probably considered by many to be the best of the series, which is probably fairly accurate. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that, but it's definitely one of the best. Although I will say that I kind of praised it for being a little subtle earlier on in this here review, but I don't think that the reveal works that well, because in the very first scene we see him doing the voodoo thing and transferring his soul into the doll, and then it like pretends like we don't know that with the doll and whether it's a killer or not, and then it is.
I think maybe that they were trying to go with did it work or not is
yeah. But like I don't know. For me, there like wasn't any doubt in my mind.
Yeah, because like first off, like we're so many years into this, so we know, and then 2, it's like, well, of course it's gonna work because what's the rest of this movie gonna be about?
Yeah, exactly.
The next one is directed by John Lafia. Do you remember how much do you remember this movie?
Andy, his mom gets put away, or he gets taken by Child Protective Services, something like that.
Because he's like a foster.
Yeah, so he has to go with a foster family, and Chucky comes back to him. How does he come back? No. I think they,
Don't they rebuild the doll?
I was gonna say, this is the one where it starts out in the lab.
Yeah,
right? And they rebuilt him. Yeah, so they rebuild the Chucky doll for some reason.
There was a reason. I don't remember what it was.
I remember thinking that it was dumb, so rest assured that it was dumb. So Chucky is back, and he's coming back after Andy because still Andy's the only person that he can trade souls with in order to escape from being a doll, because he doesn't want to be a doll. It's a slasher. So he goes around killing a bunch of people. There's a pretty good scene where
doesn't he kill a guy in the car?
he kills a guy. Oh yeah, in the car. I think he
Car.
chokes him out from behind.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, there's another part where he stabs Andy's teacher, pretending to be Andy in like this closet. It is pretty good.
I do remember that now. Yeah.
You've been very naughty, Miss Kendall.
It's just it gets goofier as it goes on.
Yeah.
This movie's a little goofy.
This is where he gets to be a little bit more funny.
Yeah.
Which is how we like our Chucky, because he's like an asshole.
Oh yeah.
But he's like really funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, of course, like, you know.
He becomes more lovable as it goes on.
Yeah, almost like he becomes like the hero of these movies, even though he's the killer. Like he's like he becomes like the more of the series goes on, like I want to root for him for some reason.
Oh yeah, you start rooting for him more and more. The second one is pretty average at best until the end, which has a pretty cool sequence where they're inside the...
This is the toy factory.
Yeah, the good guy toy factory.
Which is, I think that whole sequence is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great sequence.
They melt him.
They melt him.
Yeah,
they melt him
start
down.
to melt him down, yeah.
With acid, I believe, right?
Something like that.
So they melt him down with something. There's a whole scene where they're like going up a downwards conveyor belt trying to get away from him. He and his foster sister, I believe it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. The ending sequence makes the whole movie worthwhile, really. The ending sequence to this and the third one are both very good, while the meat of those movies is really not that great. So if you like the first one, I would watch the second one. A bit of a drop in quality.
Not a whole lot, but...
Yeah.
At least I don't think
the ending makes up for it,
yeah.
I would say.
Alright, on to Child's Play 3, which is directed by Jack Bender. Child's Play 3, okay, so the first part of this movie is, well... Is it, what's the kid's name again?
Andy.
Andy, yeah, I was gonna say Andy. He's in this movie, and it's a different actor.
Because he's a lot older.
He's a lot older, yeah, because the years between the actual movie aren't that long, but it's like takes place some years afterwards. And he's in a boot camp, and he's doing boot camp things, and for like the first, how long you gonna say, 45 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
Because I think this movie is like, what, an hour and a half or something like that?
Something like that. It's not that long.
So like the first 45 minutes, he's doing boot camp stuff, and you see little bits of Chucky in the background. This is the one that opens with the Freddy mask and the Jason, not the Freddy mask, the Halloween mask and the Freddy mask, and he's in the, you remember that?
Is it this one? This one opens with like his face like reforming, like while the credits start.
It's either this one or it's the fourth, or it's Bride.
I think it's probably Bride.
It might be Bride. That's a cool, interesting thing. We'll talk about that when we get there. Yeah, and there's just boot camp stuff. You see little bits of Chucky in the background, like, oh, what's Chucky doing? But it's like, it keeps cutting back to this boot camp stuff, and you're just like, at least for me, I was like, I don't care. I just want to see more Chucky. Like, I didn't care for most of that boot camp stuff. I was like, I just want to see Chucky. Where's Chucky?
I definitely agree with that. It gets bogged down in this kind of boot camp stuff, where they're kind of getting you to try to care about these teenage characters in this like army school, and not really buying it, not finding them that interesting. For some reason, Chucky gets reformed. It's not even really explained why. I guess it's supposed to be like a magical thing, voodoo, whatever. Which is kind of an interesting, cool sequence that the movie starts on. Just seeing him kind of come back from these melted parts. I think it's stop motion the way it's done, but a cool animated sequence. So he ends up trying to kill Andy and all these other people. And there's a part where the army school, they set up 2 teams of these kids who are enrolled to be in like a fake war against each other. And I think they have blanks for bullets.
Yeah.
But Chucky loads them up with actual bullets.
Yeah.
So then the kids start killing each other.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. Not that I think children dying is funny, but it's funny that Chucky would do something so terrible.
Yeah.
They go to like a carnival at the end, and that's where the giant like fan thing is that Chucky gets thrown into. I
Yeah, it's like
believe.
in a building because there's roller coasters in there.
Oh yeah. And
Or there's a roller coaster.
Chucky gets just chopped up in a fan.
Yeah, he pushes him off and he goes through the fan, and then like he goes to the outside, and I'm like, "Where's Chucky?" Because they always come back for like one last cut because he does it in the first two where like you think he's dead, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm still alive." And like in this one, I remember I was like, "Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?" And then it
Yeah.
just ends, and you're like, "Oh, I guess he doesn't come back for one last,
Yeah.
just
A little weird, but yeah. Third one is probably my least favorite out of all of them, really. Mostly just boring.
Yeah, the first half is definitely boring. I think it makes up for, like towards the end. Like again,
Again,
like the second one
yeah.
picks up again at the end. But yeah, most of that military stuff, I was just like, it was a snoozer. I was like, can we see? I want Chucky. Give me Chucky.
Now we go from the worst one to the best one.
To some,
To me.
yeah. Probably me too. We got Bride of Chucky, which is directed by Ronnie Yu, who directed Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Sweet. So they brought this one back, and I didn't realize that it was the same writer as all the other ones, but it is, which surprised me, because this is very different in tone. This is really not trying to be a horror movie anymore. This is taking itself not seriously at all. This is a Scream-style slasher, as in it's very tongue-in-cheek, a lot of sort of meta humor going on without necessarily being like a Scream ripoff or anything. Chucky is... instead of hinting at, funny one-liners in the first three, he's going full force. Crack me up. There's like this dumb subplot about like the police officer's daughter.
I don't know her name. I know the.
She's played by an actress who actually is well known, but I can't remember her name at this point. I was surprised to see her in it. Yeah, the plot kind of hangs. I don't know. It kind of does this funny, subversive thing where like
Katherine Heigl.
Katherine Heigl. I don't know if subversive is the right word, but there's this little plot line about this police officer's daughter wanting to run away with this guy. Just dumb, cheesy plot that you would expect to see in some stupid movie like this one. And they kind of take that, but they're not taking it seriously, and they have Chucky and the Bride of Chucky being this woman who was Charles Lee Ray's girlfriend while he was still alive and not a doll. And she dies by electrocution in the bathtub and gets her soul put into a doll.
I think it was a toaster.
I believe
I
so.
believe it was a
Yeah.
toaster.
And it's Chucky who kills her and then puts her soul into a doll. So then the two doll people run around murdering people. In the back of the van, the Katherine Heigl and her boyfriend are
Do you
in.
remember they smoke weed in the van too? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Were they in the van when they started
Oh,
smoking?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think they mentioned something like it's smelling or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, and then
definitely.
they're in the back smoking weed.
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
they hide her dad, the police officer, like in a trunk in the car
Yeah.
at one point. It's pretty darn funny. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. Tons of good jokes and slasher humor.
There is a you don't see it, but they do have sex. You see the shadow, a little bit of the shadow of them having
Yes.
sex.
I'm glad we don't, because that would be rather grotesque. But there's an implied sex scene between Chucky and Tiffany
As dolls.
as dolls. Yes. Tiffany asks if all the plumbing works. And he says, well, I never really thought about it. So then they bone.
Just-
And that's in an adjacent hotel room to where Heigl and her boyfriend are, where they killed this random newlywed couple by, I'm pretty sure, smashing a glass ceiling and making it fall on their bed.
yeah.
Yeah. Goofy movie, doesn't take itself seriously. All the funnier aspects of the child play movies are in full force here, and I think it works really well. This is definitely my favorite of any of the movies, because the whole killer doll thing, I think, taking it seriously, doesn't really work for me. So I like this a lot more than most of the other films.
I mean, I wouldn't say like the first two took themselves seriously, but they took themselves more seriously.
They played it straight.
Yeah, they tried to play it straight. I mean, it was a little bit campy and corny, but it was kind of like they, for the most part, like try to play it straight. And that's when they're just like, yeah, we'll just throw it out the window.
Yeah. You know, times were changing at that point. They
Yeah,
had to adapt the formula, and I think they did it well.
First few were in, like the late '80s, and this one was like in the '90s. Whenever Scream started becoming popular and New Nightmare became popular, it was cool to be self-aware. So like, yeah, let's just be self-aware. All right.
Why not?
Now at the end of this one, it reveals that Tiffany is preggers, and she starts to have, she starts to give birth, and then it ends, which leads into Seed of Chucky, which which I believe is the first one, which is also directed by Don Mancini, the creator of Chucky. His first, he wrote all of them. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a stab, no pun intended, at directing, and I'm gonna direct Seed of Chucky.
Yes.
And do you remember how this movie opens?
I don't think I do, actually.
You're in Tiffany's vagine, and you see the CGI sperm.
Now I remember.
Yeah, do you remember that?
This movie has a dumb opening. It's so stupid. It's literally the inside of a doll's vagina.
A new puppet,
Yes.
Glenn, and he's in the circus, and he's talking to his circus owner, and he's like, this guy's a dick. So he runs away, and there's this weird shot of like him like he like runs. Do you remember this? He like he like runs away from the place, but like whenever
He's running.
Yeah, but when he leaves the building, whatever, he's like a mile down the road. So like there's a quick cut, so you don't ever actually see him leave the house. He's like already in sprint. He's like running on the back of this truck. He hitches a ride, and the owner doesn't know.
Yeah.
And then I guess later on you find out that Glenn is the son/daughter of Tiffany and and Chucky. At the same time, oh, by the way, yeah, it's Glenn/Glenda because he can't decide whether he wants to be a boy or a girl because he does not have a penis or a vagina. It's just nothing there. And you know, Chucky like wants him to be a son, and Tiffany wants him to be a daughter.
Yes.
And then there's this weird thing where they actually have Jennifer Tilly, the actress, in the movie.
Playing herself. This time.
So in the last one, Jennifer Tilly played Tiffany the human and Tiffany the doll. And in this one, she plays Tiffany the
doll as well as herself.
No, as herself, yeah.
So we're getting even deeper into meta humor here.
Redman is also in this movie. And who I like Redman's music.
He's pretty hilarious in this movie.
He's pretty great in this movie. And so Chucky and Tiffany like decide like, oh, let's just, you know, I'll take Redman's body, you could take Tiffany's body, and you take Jennifer Tilly's body, and Tiffany's all like, oh, you know, like, she's so beautiful, and she's like commenting herself.
It's pretty. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It goes even deeper into the weird comedy stuff. The way Chucky and Tiffany come back to life also is kind of weird. It's like they're actually dolls props in a movie about the events of Bride of Chucky in universe that like come to life. It's not really explained very well like how they come to life, but it really doesn't matter that much. And they find Glenn thinks Chucky's his dad because they both have a tag on them that says "Made in Japan." Except this is never seen in any of the previous movies. They just made it up for this.
Oh yeah, Chucky never has that.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. I would say the worst thing about Seed of Chucky is the Seed of Chucky.
Yeah, Glenn.
The Glenn/Glenda character is pretty annoying and stupid. Sometimes can be kind of funny, but most of the time it's just annoying.
Like I like the idea, like that he doesn't know what gender he is, but like his voice and the way he acts, he's like an annoying character. Like it's like if you were just like funny.
Yeah.
But like he's not, he's just annoying.
He works better as a plot device to actually get things moving with Chucky and Tiffany rather than a character.
Now, I like how Tiffany is like, okay, we can't kill anymore. We're not gonna kill anymore. We're gonna be a family now. We're gonna be a family.
Yeah.
And Chucky's like, yeah, sure. And then whenever she's not around, he kills people.
Mm-hmm.
Or he kills like 2 people or whatever. And Tiffany has the issue of, she's like, oh, I don't want to kill anybody, but then she kills Redman, right?
Yeah.
She calls what's the hotline that she calls?
The AA.
She
hotline.
calls the AA hotline, Alcohol Anonymous hotline, and she's like, I had another slip up, she's like, I had a slip up, and the operator's just like, oh, it's okay, we all have our slip ups, Rome wasn't built. Was it Rome?
Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Rome wasn't built in a day. We all have our slip ups. You have one slip up every once in a while. And she's just like, Rome wasn't built in a day. One slip up every once in a while. She takes it to like every once in a while. You can go out and kill somebody. Because Rome wasn't built in a day, and that's not what it means at all.
She tries to do the 12-step program.
Yeah,
one of the steps is apologizing for things that you've done. So she starts calling up random people who are related to people that she's killed, and they like start crying on the phone, and she's like, okay, bye. It's pretty good. There's like a dumb part where Glenn kills somebody while dressed up as Tiffany, and it comes out of nowhere and then kind of doesn't get referenced again.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, it's kind of a very out of place scene. Just thought I'd mention that.
Do you remember...
There are some issues with this film. Not as good as Bride.
Do you remember when Tiffany calls Jennifer Tilly on the phone and they all both sound like, because they're both voiced by the same person, and they get confused, and then I think Chucky gets on the phone or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's her assistant trying to talk to Jennifer Tilly, but then Tiffany's also on the phone.
Oh yeah, that's
so
what
it gets really confusing.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, and the assistant doesn't know who she's talking. Like, she's like, why do you? She thinks it's one person.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
The whole Tiffany and Jennifer Tilly and Redman thing is hilarious because Redman is directing a movie about either Jesus or the Virgin Mary, and he wants to cast Jennifer Tilly as Virgin Mary. Then she gets pregnant by Chucky. A whole different story. But then whenever Redman sees that she is pregnant, he won't let her be Mary anymore. Yeah. And she's like, why not? He's like, I have a very specific vision for this character. The part where Jennifer Tilly sees Chucky for the first time, and I think he just has a turkey baster of gum, and he's like, what do I do with this?
And yeah, she has the baby. She actually has twins. She has a boy and a girl.
Yes.
And actually, before we get to that, do you remember when Chucky chops down... This is towards the end. He chops... We're not going to specify what he's doing, because we'll talk about that later, but he chops down a door, and he cuts like a hole in the door, and he sticks his head through it. And you know the scene in The Shining where Jack Nicholson goes, here's Johnny. It's been parodied a bunch of times, and you think, here comes Chucky's big moment to say, here's Chucky, and you know what he says? He sticks his head through the hole, and he goes, I can't think of anything to say.
Oh,
but yeah, anyway.
Good stuff.
Anyway, Jennifer Tilly has a baby, a boy and a girl, and then they're like, they're going to transport their souls. Chucky is going to... Well, I guess they're going to leave Chucky behind because he's being a dick, and Redman's...
Yeah, he decides he wants to stay a doll.
And Redman's dead, so they can't use that, so she's going to go in Jennifer Tilly's body, and Glenn gets to pick whether he wants to be a boy or a girl, which I guess he chooses the boy in the end, right?
Yes.
And, Chucky gets left behind, and so, she goes and... They have a fight, don't they? Because Chucky gets his arm cut off by Glenn.
And then he, at the end, Jennifer Tilly's now possessed by Tiffany, is having a party with her twins, birthday party, and Chucky sends them his arm, which jumps up at them right whenever the credits comes.
Yeah, it was in Glenn's present, and I guess they have a normal daughter, so there's regular daughter, and then they have
weird, confusing ending, but whatever.
This one's probably, this one, I mean, it has a lot of funny stuff in it, but it is across the board, like, a comedy. There's
definitely. Yeah.
I mean, there's just, like, slash elements in it because they kill people, but, I mean, it's a comedy.
Yes.
If this movie, like, tweaked Glenn, like, if it just, like, fixed everything with him, and some scenes that he did, like, dressing up as Tiffany.
Right.
I think it could have been a lot better. Yeah,
a little more work on the Glenda character would have improved this movie a lot, but I think it's still pretty darn good. Very enjoyable.
Which is funny because a lot of people hate this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people hate this one. I don't.
And a lot of people like start to think this is where it gets like bad as we're Bride but we're a big fan of like whole stupid dumb comedy. So. Yeah,
this is right up our alley.
So like if you're looking at this from like a horror perspective, then
you're probably not gonna enjoy it at all.
Yeah, but we like funny slashers, so whatever.
Whatever, dude. We like these ones, okay?
And then I don't think this one came out in CD came out in 2004, and then 2013 rolled around, and a straight to Blu-ray and DVD. Seed of Chucky came out, or not Seed, I'm sorry, Curse of Chucky came out.
Curse of Chucky.
Which was again directed by Don Mancini, written and directed. And what do you want to say about this one?
This one's pretty good, surprisingly. It's significantly more low budget than all the other ones. It takes place mainly in one location, just this single house, but it's a pretty effective use of that location. It is not a comedy. It goes back to its slasher roots, but with a more modern twist, and that sounds pretty terrible, I'm sure. Just at hearing the words modern twist, you're already like, screw this movie. But it's pretty good.
Now, this woman's in a wheelchair, and I don't remember why she gets a Chucky doll. Maybe as a present.
It gets mailed to her.
Yeah, it's mailed to her. And Chucky appears to be normal. He doesn't have any of those, because periodically he gets like scars and bruises or whatever.
Yeah.
And, when this movie came out, I'm pretty sure it was like viewed like, I don't know, maybe it's a reboot, and then if you watch like all the way to like about most of the way through the movie, you think it's a reboot. Because Chucky's normal and he doesn't reference anything in the previous movies.
Yeah.
And, eventually he's wearing like a plastic cover mask, and he peels it off, and that's when it reveals he's got his staples in, he's got his scars, and you're like, oh, this is a follow-up.
Satisfying to see.
I think he mentions Tiffany or something like that.
Well, you see her at the end, too.
Yeah,
so.
You do see her. I believe there's an after-credit scene.
Yeah.
But he references like a few of the other killings.
It's a good modern slasher. It sets up this cast of characters, and they're all going down at one point or another. So you're just kind of waiting for when it happens. And this movie, it's got some creative kills, and it's got some tricks up its sleeve. You're kind of led to believe that you're introduced first to Wheelchair Girl and her weirdo mom. Weirdo mom dies, so Wheelchair Girl is left alone in the house. It's her sister and her sister, her husband, their babysitter, and then their kid and a priest, and they come over, and that's who you're watching get dead.
Now, one thing I like about this movie, and I thought was kind of interesting because they don't do this hardly ever.
Yeah.
Chucky wins in the end.
Oh yeah, Chucky absolutely wins. He kills everybody except for Wheelchair Girl, and then Wheelchair Girl goes to jail, and Chucky gets away scot-free, rescued by Tiffany. They do kind of a funny thing where you might suspect that the husband of the sister is getting with the babysitter, but it's actually a lesbian relationship between the sister and the babysitter. Kind of funny. And they watch each other get killed on Skype. Or the sister watches the babysitter get killed over a Skype call. That was pretty cool. A lot of good kills. Gets kind of genuinely intense whenever the Wheelchair Girl is trying to get away from Chucky. Because a lot of time, especially in the Child's Play movies, how hard should it be to get away from a doll? You're thinking. I mean, it kind of runs fast, but you should probably be able to avoid a doll pretty well. Whereas if you're in a wheelchair, it's not necessarily the case. So the tension builds a little bit more. I would say as a horror movie, it's pretty effective.
Do you remember when he puts was it rat poison in the spaghetti or whatever they were eating? And they're like, you don't know who got it?
Yeah.
Who did it? Do you remember who it ended up being? Because I don't remember.
Was
it the doctor guy or?
It was the priest.
The priest. That's what it was.
I'm pretty sure because he
left.
He dies on the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah, he dies while he's driving.
Yeah, because like this intense scene where everybody's eating, and you're like, so you put it in somebody's plate, but you don't know whose plate you put it in.
Yeah.
And I think and you're like waiting. It was kind of intense, and then it ends up being the priest, which I thought was kind of a cool scene.
Yeah, it was a neat little thing where you see him poison one dish, and you think it's gonna be the kid because she takes a sip. It's like, this tastes funny, and the sister's like, don't say that about my sister's cooking, you little retard.
Yeah.
Not that exactly, but that's kind of what she means, and good scene. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I enjoyed,
good movie.
I enjoyed Curse.
Yes.
And
Cult of Chucky is a little bit different.
So That one came out in 2013, and then 4 years later, again, Blu-ray to DVD release, we got Cult of Chucky. Again, directed by Don Mancini. What are your thoughts on this movie?
This movie's a mess, but it's a fun mess.
I would agree.
Like, it's all over the place, but I still enjoyed myself watching it, and would probably see it again. They reintroduce Andy, played by the same
Guy who
actor.
played in the first two.
Yes. Who has a mutilated Chucky doll head that he like kind of keeps in his house and will torture.
Yeah, he just
every now and again.
Yeah, continuously talks to him.
Yeah.
So like he'll like shoot it, or like he'll like burn him with a thing, and Chucky like ow 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 ow.
And then we go back to the wheelchair girl, and she's
in like a mental hospital.
Yeah, she's in a mental hospital, and she's being transferred. She was in maximum security, so she's being transferred to lower security because she, good behavior, hasn't done anything. Because really, she hasn't killed anybody. She's suspected for the murders that Chucky did in Curse of Chucky. So she goes there, and Chucky comes back, gets mailed to her. There's a couple Chucky dolls, and you're not sure which one is Chucky. Turns out they're all Chucky. Yeah, this movie introduces a very strange concept that Chucky literally went on the internet to a voodoo website and found some sort of spell that will allow him to be in multiple dolls at once. This is never really explained beyond like one throwaway line. And they only say cult, I think once, we're like, welcome to the cult.
Yeah. Now, one thing...
just a very weird thing.
One thing I semi-like about this movie is like the idea, like you see that Chucky with Andy, and then you see the Chucky here, and you're like, okay, how's that possible? And then you see like another Chucky, and you're like, okay. Remember me and you were talking, we're like, what the heck is going on here? And then... like whenever like they all step in together, I'm like, oh, I get it. There's a bunch of them. They're like a cult. And then he says the line. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was better than you. So.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
See, I kind of thought it was gonna be like he's getting more people to like put themselves into dolls and run around and kill people. That kind of would make more sense when it comes to like what a cult is.
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
I
don't necessarily know how like that works. Like you put yourself into multiple like.
Yeah,
bodies.
It's not explained
as how that works.
Yeah.
Now on to some other slight little details. There's a scene where he shatters the sky, the windows.
The skylight thing.
Yeah, the skylight thing, and the glass falls. CGI, not good.
No, the
all.
CG. Most of the effects, like all the doll stuff, is good. There's some
good.
CG that's pretty terrible in this though. The glass ceiling falling down and decapitating this woman somehow, and just CGI blood and glass, and it's like, okay, dude.
They do semi-reference Seed by a second because Jennifer Tilly is in this movie again. Tiffany as Jennifer Tilly body, and they say, "Oh, you look like Jennifer Tilly," and she's like, "Yeah, I get that a lot."
Mm-hmm.
And she comes in. And at the end, she rescues Chucky. She gets him out of that mental hospital after he's, killed everybody or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like telling you, I'm like, where's Glenn? Where's Glenn? Are they gonna reference it? And they don't. And I wonder if they ever will in the future.
Yeah.
Because that part's still a mystery. Where's Glenn at? It doesn't matter. If they didn't, I just want them to mention him. Like I don't want to see him. I just want to know what happened to him.
I feel like they're probably keeping it in their back pocket for future films, because I'm sure there'll probably be another one. I don't know why they'd stop now. Although what I don't like is that the Andy character doesn't go anywhere. He's in the beginning, and you're kind of thinking like, ooh, they're gonna reintroduce him and stuff. He's in like 4 scenes total, and at the end he's like going to this mental hospital because he knows that Chucky's there and he's gonna take down the cult and kill him. Nah, he gets stuck inside of a cell, like within minutes of arriving there, and then gets all the murders blamed on him. And that's the end of his character. And it's like, alright, cool.
Chucky wins.
Yeah, Chucky absolutely wins. He takes over the body of the wheelchair girl, gets her to stand up out of the wheelchair and just walks around like normal, and then just drives away with Jennifer Tilly after they have a little bit of lesbian kiss,
Some HLA, hot lesbian action. Yeah.
There's a little bit of lesbian flavor in this as well as Curse of Chucky. Just noticed that. Got it in both. Expect that to be a recurring theme.
Alright. Is there anything else you want to say about Cult?
Don Mancini, or perhaps just the composer of this film, definitely watch The Neon Demon by Nicholas Winding Refn. There's a scene where a song plays that I swear they might have just ripped straight from that movie. If it's not just right from the movie, it's a ripoff completely. But it was kind of cool because I like the Neon Demon a lot, so it's interesting to see that sort of influence in a Chucky movie, because they're very different types of movies. But yeah, just thought I'd point that out. I liked Cult of Chucky. There's some cool things going on. Overall, very messy. Script could have used some work. Dawn must have been a bit too focused on directing, not too much on the writing. You should do a little bit more of that next time, but I'm definitely tuning in for the next one. I'll say that.
I hope there is a next one, because
I do.
I do enjoy this franchise a lot.
This franchise is the epitome of guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I do like it a lot.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that any of these films are particularly great besides maybe Bride, but only if you're looking at it through the right lens of just wanting to have fun with stupid, goofy slasher humor. So if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check it out. Guilty pleasure through and through. Recommend.
And if there's another Chucky movie, we'll review it.
Yeah. Don't you worry.
Anyway, we'll see you in the next horror review. Winky face. See you there. Slasher with a knife.